There's so many great stories out there. But how does a brand find the story that's right for them to tell, right? This is what we explore next. Content is all around us today. It's everywhere and it's constant. If this new era of advertising is really going to be less interruptive, how will brands cut through the noise?
Everyone's a creator. There's too many messages.
I think brands should be aware that their audiences are smarter than they are. And they are very well informed, and they are critical as hell.
Even on Facebook, we've learned if you can get people to opt in after the first 5 seconds, they'll stick around for 3, even 5 minutes if a story is told well.
If you're going to go out there and make branded content, that's great, but make it really, really good. Make it so it's visually spectacular. Make it so it has cool characters in it. Make it so it's something that you want to watch over and over again, like a really good film.
I have to get your attention, and I have to make it relevant, and I have to entertain you or inform you. If I don't do one of those two things within seconds, you're off as a consumer engaging with someone else's piece of content, whether it's from a brand, your friend on Facebook, a media company. And so that's where we really focus all of our attention. It's not about the brand, it's about the message first. I've got a few seconds to get your attention. And then if you look through a lot of our content creative that we've made and delivered, it was all about story, right? It was let's get them in with a great story. And in the case of Two Bellman and our other short films, we suck an audience in with music, movement, story, where the hotel just is a character, it's just a backdrop. And then I've got your attention, and then you see in our case, our brand through that story. Right? Never in any of our content are we saying, hey, welcome to the JW Marriott LA Live, here's your key card. You just experienced the hotel here.
While BB and his creative minds at Marriott utilize fiction for leverage, Dick's Sporting Goods has gone all in on producing compelling and genuine stories within reality. Their film, We Could Be King, won a Sports Emmy for an emotion-packed story of 2 inner-city Philly high schools. A truly genuine and touching piece of work that brands everywhere should take note of.
For a long time, we always started talking about the word authentic. It's always kind of been in our DNA. And as we started kind of framing this brand up, we actually started to change that language, and we changed it to be more genuine than authentic. It's got the same meaning, but genuine's a little bit more sincere.
Right.
Because when you talk about, and this even translates to our organization, but it even translates to the storytelling that we do. When you talk about a person, you're never going to say that person's authentic. You know, I say he's a pretty genuine guy. You know, you're not going to say authentic. Authentic is more entity kind of driven. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about stories are really about people. And so to us, when we talk about that connection of what everybody was talking about yesterday is authentic. And I hate to be a buzzkill because everybody's always like the big buzzword everybody's talking about. But to us, it's more about being sincerely genuine.
Our mantra is we are a storytelling company. We're not a branded content company, we're a storytelling company, and our main client, this is our philosophy, is the audience, not the brand. Certainly, we appreciate our brand partners, but we feel like our obligation is first and foremost to the audience, to tell them a story they really want to hear.
Nobody goes online and says, I really would like to watch a commercial about insurance today. But you can get people to go on and watch a story about Ricky Fowler, a golfer that they really care about, and you can weave in messages that are about the brand and make people feel better about Farmers Insurance.
Right now, content marketing, influencers, creators, all this stuff works, and it's working great. We just got to make sure that we hold ourselves accountable and our clients accountable to ensure that we continue to do right by the audience versus doing what happened to banner ads and flooding it with a bunch of garbage.
I think when it comes to branded content, I mean, there are some slippery slopes in branded content. It depends on your conscience as an artist and a filmmaker. If the people who are paying for this, if that sits well with your conscience, and you can say to yourself, whatever is being made, I'm okay with that. If they're a company that maybe don't do things ethically sometimes, and there are a lot of them that don't, that can really affect, you know, people in docs especially who are out there to tell the truth, to go beyond the mainstream media message. Kind of collaborating with companies that aren't doing that, aren't telling the truth, can be troublesome. It's a weird gray area that some directors deal with in their own way, some just don't even bother.
It's always exciting when you hear your clients say, we want to tell stories. But it's also really a dangerous territory because they want to tell their story, but you have to make sure that if you're telling a real story that you're also leaving some room for the human story that you're telling. And the brand can't take all the air out of the room. The brand has to take its marketing messages and pull them back a little bit. So when they say they want to tell stories, that's just the beginning of the journey with us, with the brand, to get them to the starting point.
If the branding is there, the branding is there, but do it so it's authentic and do it so it means something and is not just for serving one thing. It has to serve an audience, it has to serve culture, it has to serve the moment. And if you can do that, you're on the right track, I think, as a brand. Don't try to fool anybody because it's too late for all that kind of thing. You have to be honest with your audience and connect with them in an emotional way and a personal way. Otherwise, you may struggle to get the impact you want, perhaps.
We learned that the best brand stories are ones that truly reflect the DNA of the brand. In the case of sports, every athlete has a story, so naturally there's no shortage of voices that Dick's Sporting Goods can't amplify. But which ones are right for the brand?
Our DNA is all built around this family business. And also, the journey that we had when we were building the brand is we landed on something that it was hard to break. And literally it was a 2-year journey where we had millions of thoughts and we landed to a place where it was one sentence. And I remember all of us looking at that one sentence, we're like, 2 years of work for that silly sentence. But at the end of the day, we couldn't break that sentence. And the sentence, basically what we stand for as a brand, is that we believe that sports make people better. And everything that we do has to tie into that. We feel like we have a responsibility to not just say the things, we have to do some things. And that's where the philanthropic piece comes in. And we started this program called Sports Matter 2 years ago, which I have a lot of passion behind because of the fact that once you start to hear some statistics of where sports are going in this country, it becomes pretty alarming. There's 27% of public schools won't have high school sports by the year 2020. It's pretty alarming, especially in this country. And so we have an effort now that this philanthropic piece that we tie in our belief system to try to change that curve. And so when we find stories like that, those are the stories that are hard to believe. Those are the stories that start to pique interest because that's where true America is. And so that's how we landed on the MLK story. You know, through the storytelling, what we feel is extremely important, it has to be character driven. And not in a Hollywood sense, it has to be genuine. I mean, we have to find these people who are really, when you watch that documentary of We Could Be King, Coach Dunn is an incredible person. You know, when you see that, you started out, you're thinking, yeah, he's like a 40-year-old guy who's been a coach forever or whatever. But then as you follow his journey through there, you end up finding out he's a 27-year-old guy. He's not getting paid for his job. But yet the impact he has on those kids is unbelievable. So when we have those stories and you start to see how sports are so important and vital to these kids, we can't let that go away. And so that's the DNA of our organization. And so everything we do, storytelling, all revolves around that.
You know, to my mind, a real acid test for great branded content is if it's harder to tell the story without mentioning the brand. So let me give you an example. One of my friends, John Fredette from IBM, who's here. John and I made a film with the NYPD for IBM. It's about 8 years ago now, short documentary. And it was about the real-time crime center at One Police Plaza in New York. And basically, classic organization, NYPD, didn't know what they didn't know. You know, they didn't have all of the data that was available to them at their fingertips. So IBM crushed all of that data, digitized it all, and then made it easily searchable. So they built what's called the Real-Time Crime Center, which allows police and detectives to predict where a felon may run, you know, where he may bolt and hide. And it digitizes everything from boat license records. I mean, everything is piled in there. And in that for me is a really great example of first-rate branded entertainment, because it is harder to tell that fascinating story without mentioning IBM. Mm-hmm. So when you know people begrudge, oh, the product shot, it ruins it, it's clumsy. Well, that's just bad storytelling. You know, if you find a good way to integrate a brand and include the product, then it's absolutely fitting and natural that it should be there.
In 2015, CNN's Courageous Studio created sponsor videos for the CNN Heroes program, which celebrates everyday people having a positive impact on the world. Shannon Pruitt, who heads up the Aegis Network Story Lab agency, worked with Microsoft and Courageous to deliver what she coins the trifecta in content marketing.
The ability to work with Courageous to create content like that we could then use both on our social and digital platforms as a way to tell that ongoing story beyond a Super Bowl spot or beyond just a regular television integration was so powerful and such an incredible opportunity to work on, because it does change lives. And you've got to see how that technology changes lives in a way that both entertains, informs, inspires, and it's the trifecta for me when I think about content. And it was just a tremendous opportunity, and it really, moved the needle for Microsoft.
Brian Bowen is an executive producer at Pace Communications and has produced hundreds of brand stories over the last decade. Recently, Pace was challenged by Wells Fargo to source and produce compelling stories from all over the country that told heartfelt tales of why people work. We stopped Brian on a snowy Main Street to find out just how those stories are discovered and produced.
What happened is that you got the typical brand brief to try to reach millennials.
Yeah.
And then what did you guys do differently?
We have a deep well of award-winning journalists, researchers, storytellers, editorial writers, and we began to just collectively pool our resources to search on the internet, online, through word of mouth, for potential millennial stars of our stories. And we started with like 85 people.
85 stories?
Yes, and we had a grid, and we literally mined through that grid until we organized them into archetypes, and then we mined through them again, and had a lot of qualifying phone calls, and we have a deep journalistic bench, so we had qualifying questions and research, and we were able to take that down to a top 8, knowing that we needed 4. So we presented a first and second position, and we were able to get it down to 4 amazing real stories that were totally on point, on brand, and each one laddered up to an archetype that was part of the brief. So yeah, that's an awesome experience for me to be able to go in, sift through 80 people, narrow it down to 8, pitch the client 8 passionately, then pick 4 for a brand the size of Wells Fargo, and then we get to tell the heartfelt real story of each one of these individuals in a mini documentary. I thought it was amazing, and it was a really great content for the platform.
Pete Nwali is the EVP at LA-based independent RPA that has counted Honda as a client since 1986. We sat down and explored with him where brand stories are found and which are worth telling.
We've won 3 Cannes Lions in the last couple of years for videos that were produced almost completely in-house. 4 to 5 minute long form, not long form, I guess they're sort of medium form. But they're really places where we found things that mattered to people and told those stories. One was about a band that we found that it was just their thing, but they didn't have enough money for studio time, so they ended up recording in their cars, and their cars were all Hondas. So we had a media buyer somewhere on our team that saw it and thought it was really cool, sent it to one of our account people who sent it to our creative social lead. The next thing you know, we are creating a video about these people and telling their story because it's interesting. The fact that they're in a Honda is a nice connection, but the reality is it's an interesting story that people want to see. So what we did is we made the story even more interesting by surprising them with a gig on Jimmy Kimmel Live. And when we created this whole video, told the story and put the video out there, it spread like wildfire. They had more downloads on iTunes than Justin Bieber that week. And that kind of thing is really exciting. We get excited, our clients get excited. The people that are watching it are actually enjoying that content. And as I said, in this day and age, we need people to want to see our content.
Storytelling takes on many forms, from Vines to Snapchats to unscripted series, to fiction films like Two Bellmen, produced by David Beebe.
So Two Bellmen is our first film franchise that we launched now. We shot Two Bellmen here last year at the JW Marriott LA Live. We chose Los Angeles, this iconic hotel downtown here. We've got 4 properties all around us. And we wanted to be in LA, obviously, with the creative community is to do it. And we developed the film from scratch. When I look back at it, and I knew it all along going all the way, very risky storytelling. With the success of that and the engagement, people watching it, they said, all right, I understand that that's cool. I understood essentially that was a 20-minute ad, but I like the story. Or I had never considered JW Marriott before, or I didn't know about the hotel. So in the comment section, and what people were saying was they were associating the creative with the brand, and that's exactly what we wanted. When we originally developed Two Bellman, we knew, and a lot of creatives do this in the short film space, you always want to make a trilogy. You always want to continue the story. So we had always knew we wanted to do Two Bellman 2. As a global brand like JW Marriott, we wanted to go to another iconic location, Dubai, which is the tallest hotel in the world that we have there, the Two Towers, and a beautiful location to shoot in anyway. So we partnered with Emirates Airlines and the Film Commission there, and the tourism board, and developed the story. We took Two Bellman 2 and shot half of it in Dubai. So Two Bellman 1 was all shot in the hotel. Two Bellman 2 takes the story out of the hotel and puts it into the city. And what that does for us, it inspires people to travel. Same thing we did with French Kiss, took it out of the hotel. Hotel is part of it and the main story points happen there, but by seeing iconic locations around the world, people say, oh, I remember when I was there, and it gets them to think about travel. Or, oh, I've always wanted to go there. And guess what? They're in my world now as a brand. And I can say, I know you want to travel. Well, look at what we have.
A short film like Two Bellman, or an unscripted series like America's Greatest Makers, takes months and months of planning and production. But some powerful stories are being told in real time and capturing huge audience across social media channels. And some just happen unexpectedly.
So I built our real-time content studio called Blink Studios. So everyone knows and loves Oreo for the famous blackout tweet.
The Oreo blackout tweet is now social media marketing history. If somehow you missed it, here's a flashback. During the third quarter of Super Bowl 47, when a power outage at the Superdome caused some of the lights to go out for 34 minutes, the Sandwich Cookies social media team jumped on the cultural moment, tweeting an ad that read, "Power out? No problem," with a starkly lit image of a solitary Oreo and the caption, "You can still dunk in the dark." The message caught on almost immediately, getting nearly 15,000 retweets instantly and more than 20,000 likes on Facebook. Pretty impressive for a one-off joke made by a cookie. The ad was also posted on Tumblr by Dig with the note, "Oreo won the Super Bowl blackout."
I think people assume we did it once, we would do it all the time, and it's really easy and kind of turnkey, when the reality is that type of behavior for a brand is really difficult to do. It's really difficult to replicate, and unless you are prepared to be spontaneous, that doesn't happen. That's lightning in a bottle. So created a model where our brands could actually tap into real-time cultural events with video. So not just a tweet or a copy line, but real-time video. So we partnered with Now This News, so they're a social media news network, really talented at kind of understanding how to bring the news to people in stream, in feed, and built the process so that we could actually release content, so branded content in relation to what was happening in culture in less than an hour.
Blank Studios is just a small piece of the content machine that is Mondelez. With so many brands under the umbrella, Mondelez serves a wide variety of target audiences.
What we're trying to do is create content that has utility, emotional, informational, some sort of utility or benefit. And I think there's lots of different ways to do that. We've done some work recently that we're really proud of with our Sour Patch brand in the US. So the target is millennials, teens, they love discovering new music. And so what we actually did was create something called the Patch, which is an outpost for traveling musicians. So, based on the insight that when artists are on the road, it's tough. It's not home, it's not cushy, and until you've made it, until you're Lady Gaga, you're not living in the lap of luxury. And so there's now 3 outposts, one in Brooklyn, one in Austin, and one in LA, where traveling artists can actually stay, and there's full studios there for them to actually record and create content. And so what we're finding is we don't require them to create any content when they come. We simply give them the tools that are there, and they end up recording in the studio. They end up taking snaps on their own. They end up posting to their own followers and audiences naturally, because it's something that they're really interested in doing.
Something magical happens when a brand allows creative autonomy. Not only does a brand leverage the power of a creative influencer's impact on an audience, but the content created is innately transparent and unique. YouTubers, vloggers, Vine stars, Snapchat celebrities, and Instagram moguls have built their audiences from the ground up. Followers and subscribers have a strong devotion to these influencers and participate in the conversation around this kind of content. More and more, brands are catching on to this means of reaching engagement. Tapping into an influencer's loyal fan base, or following, renders a new kind of relationship between a consumer and a brand. But we'll save that for later.